Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Starting the Day the Right Way, 5 minute devotional for July 20th, 2020. It is a Monday morning. Hope everyone had an awesome weekend. So let's hop right into it. So today's verse is going to come from the Old Testament, 1 Samuel 16:7. And from the New Living Translation, it says, "But the Lord said to Samuel, 'Don't judge by his appearance or height, for I have rejected him.' The Lord doesn't see things the way you see them. People judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." So I got to thinking, as me and my wife usher and grow and pour into our son's heart, um, I always try and take a look from his point of view as an 8 year old. And sometimes I can almost picture in his brain the little gerbil running around trying to process everything. And, all the things that me and my wife tell him how to act in this circumstance, how to act in that circumstance. And it just must be so overwhelming. But when we take into account that God judges our hearts in the matter, it gives us a different perspective. And me and my wife always tell our son that we love his heart. We much rather have the discipline and the teaching and the stuff go on inside the house, and on the outside of the house, the harvest of what we pour into him come forth in very fruitful manners. One example of that is this particular, or the Christmas that just passed. His teacher let us know of a couple of needs of some classmates that needed some extra clothing and things like that. And Christian happened to go shopping with us and saw us pick out the clothes, and we explained to him what we were doing it for, and he understood it totally. But we did have to add a little caveat that when he saw his classmate wearing these particular shirts or jeans or whatever we had gotten him, not to say anything. Okay, and we went on to explain to him, when we bless others, we don't want to brag about it. Um, God will keep track of that, and he understood. And but when he came home on a day that the kids were wearing the particular thing, he immediately ran home to tell us, because we had told him not to say anything in class. So it was just interesting. But what I find so interesting about these verses, there's two particular verses. So if we skip back to Leviticus, okay, I'm going to be talking about leprosy today. Okay, so in Leviticus 13:45, verse 45 says, "The diseased person must wear torn clothes and let his hair hang loose, and he must cover his mouth and cry out, 'Unclean, unclean.'" All right, so I want you guys to think about that for a second. Okay, back in Old Testament times, leprosy still exists today, but it is way on a less scale. Only about, I think, from what I was looking up, about 40 or 50 people an entire year in the United States get it, but it's very manageable, very treatable. Back in Old Testament times, it was very debilitating. You often had to put rags on your arms and your legs, and announce yourself as you came into a village. Sometime, depending upon which way the wind blew, you had to walk on the other side of the street so no one would be infected. It was a very contagious disease. Okay. Now, if we skip ahead to the New Testament, and there's an account in most of the Gospels, but the one that I'm going to talk about today comes from Mark 1:40 through 45. A man with leprosy came to him and begged him on his knees, "If you are willing, you can make me clean." Jesus was compassionate. He reached out his hand and touched the man. "I am willing," he said, "be clean." And immediately the leprosy left him and he was cleansed. All right. So I just want, in these electrifying times where it is very difficult to say anything without anyone jumping on you, I want you guys to think about this today. Think about if we had to walk in society and say, "I'm a tax cheater, I'm a tax cheater," or "I'm an adulterer, I'm an adulterer," or "I'm a liar, I'm a liar," as we're walking down the streets. Okay? Think about that situation, because that's what the lepers had to do in biblical times. Okay? So, but bringing this back to our original scripture of God knows the heart. Okay? We need to be compassionate at this point in time. When we're having conversations with people, we need to have the compassion of Christ. Okay? We have to have understanding. We have to have calmness, peacefulness. I know these are very difficult conversations that we're having, but we have to have them with the heart of Jesus. Okay, so if you're calling yourself a Christian, I got to ask you, are your conversations Christ-like? Are the things you're posting Christ-like? Okay, if they're not, change it. Okay, if they are, keep going. Okay, these are difficult times, these are difficult conversations that we're having, but they need to be had and they can be had, but they can be had in the proper arena. Okay, have it with the heart of Jesus. Okay, hope it was a blessing. We'll be back at you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye bye.